Hey everybody, Taylor with Peak Marketing, and I'm really excited today to go over link building with you. This video is going to be a general overview of link building. We're going to dive into several different topics around link building to help us better understand how we can do this well for our SEO efforts. Keep in mind, each of these topics can be another entire video in and of themselves. So this is really just meant to be, hey, here's a quick overview of everything you want to think about when you're looking at link building. And then there will be subsequent videos to follow that will dive into each of these things individually to give you a better idea of how to really dive in and do these things for yourselves. So we are going to go ahead and get started with what I consider the most important piece of link building in 2026, right? So if you really want to make sure you're doing this properly and doing this white hat and doing it the right way, you really need to have what we call linkable assets. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and look at an example of what a linkable asset could be. So there's a million and one different ways that we could have a linkable asset. Okay, so there's things like infographics, online tools, calculators, listicles, studies and research, guides and tutorials, templates, checklists, and the list just goes on and on and on, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can create a linkable asset. This is a very, very simple example of a linkable asset that we made for a client where we just talk about dangerous intersections in Las Vegas. Okay, so we're looking at different intersections. We look at traffic characteristics, accident factors, lots of different variables just to help people understand, hey, where are some dangerous intersections in Las Vegas and what are the most dangerous ones that exist? And the goal of this really is to start reaching out with a linkable asset of this nature to, for this particular example, mostly the news outlets to see if they'll pick this up and use it as a piece of news that they can run and help people understand more about the areas in Las Vegas that you might want to be careful of. But again, this is just a single example. There are tons and tons of linkable assets that can be created. The point I want to drive home here, you need to create something so that you can start reaching out to other individuals with your linkable asset to be able to tell them, hey, I've created this. I think you would find some value in it. Link to it if you like to be able to reference it on your website. That brings us to the next point that I would like to talk about, which is outreach. Okay, so once you have these linkable assets, again, whatever they are, you need to reach out to people. Okay, build it and they will come. Will okay, I shouldn't say always, almost always fail when it comes to getting links built out to your website. They're few and far between where you can hit the jackpot and get something that just magically gets a ton of links. You've got to promote the asset that you've created so that more people will link to it. The most common form of doing that is outreach, right? Where we do either email, phone calls, whatever you want to do, whatever you're comfortable with, to be able to get more individuals to link to this resource that you've now created. So let me just go over a couple of forms of outreach that you can utilize with the different linkable assets so that you can start to get more links. One of the most common ones that used to be used all the time was something called scholarship outreach. This is something that kind of died off because a lot of people were misusing it. Okay, they would keyword stuff their scholarship names to have something like Los Angeles Personal Injury Attorney Scholarship. Okay, and Google was starting to sniff this out very quickly when it was becoming a very popular tactic, and it quickly started to cause problems for websites rather than help. What we have learned over the years, if your scholarship is branded, meaning you're just using your law firm's name. So something like uh, a Mundaka Law Scholarship or whatever the name of your firm is, and then you leave it at that. We actually have seen some very, very positive results. Brand signals are becoming more important, and this is an amazing way to increase the brand signals that are being pointed to your website because now you're going to have hundreds of schools that are linking back to you using your brand name, and Google loves that. So if you're going to use scholarships, just make sure it's a branded form of scholarship and not an exact match keyword. Guest blog posts are also another great way to get more backlinks and use that as a form of outreach. A couple of different ways you can do this. The right way, but a slower way, is to build relationships with different website owners across the United States or wherever it is that you're located. And it's a slower way because you've got to build a relationship with this individual before they're going to be willing to really post any content and link back to you. And it's not usually the type of thing where you want to constantly be posting on the same exact website over and over again. There's some value there, but usually you want to be getting additional links built to your website that you don't already have. So it can take a very long time to really scale this and do it properly. A quicker and more roundabout way is where we can go on to something like Fiverr, Upwork. Right? There's tons of these different sites that exist out there, and do a search for individuals that are opening their blog up to sponsored posts. Now, you have to be careful with sponsored posts. You can't just go completely crazy on those and buy all the blogs in the world that you want to get listed on. But it is an easy way to a shortcut, at least initially, when you're trying to get some quick links built out to your site to build some authority. And generally, these bloggers will want anywhere from $5 upwards of $2,000, $3,000, depending on the quality of the website, which we'll get into in just a little bit later. But guest blogs, really good way to get some links fairly quickly, at least out the gate, and you can find a ton of these different websites out there that are willing to accept some sponsored posts. Okay, next we've got link begging. Okay, link begging is exactly what it sounds like. You're essentially shooting out tons of emails, making phone calls again, whatever, however you want to reach out to individuals and asking them, hey, would you mind linking back to our website here and sending them a link source? The success rate of this obviously is fairly low, but if it's done at scale, it can generate a decent amount of links to a website. It's an older tactic, but again, something that you can definitely use at least initially to start getting some quick links built out to your website. An important piece of link building is you do need to identify with any of these tactics that you're doing, you need to identify your prospects. Okay, it's going to require a little bit of quantity as you're going through and getting these links built out to your website. So the more individuals you have to reach out to, the better. So you'll want to identify, hey, this is a good site, or this is a site that's topically relevant to my particular website, and build a fairly substantial list, usually a few thousand individuals that you're willing to reach out to and send an email to. And then you want to start to build that relationship that way. So again, relationship building is going to be a big part of this if we're doing it properly. And in the long term, you need to do it that way. We can't always rely on sponsored posts and expect it to magically help our site start to rank better. Okay, let's shift gears again just a little bit here. We're going to talk about analysis of different websites, and we're going to get a better idea of the types of sites we really should be getting links from and some that we should actually entirely avoid and don't want to get links from at all. So first, let's talk about a metric called keyword count. So let me go ahead and pull up an audit here from Ahrefs that gives us an idea of what I'm talking about. So if you look over here, and there's many tools that will give you this information. Some of them are free, so you can use any tool you would like. Again, we use Ahrefs quite frequently. But we've got here organic keywords. Okay, so we've got 161 organic keywords that this particular website ranks for. We like to make sure that any site we get links from at least has 100 keywords that they rank for. If they're ranking for less than that, they're either a newer site, and we're not really sure how much of Google's going to trust that link, or B, they're really a spammy site that isn't going to help us rank better and in fact could actually hurt us. So that's the first thing that we always take a quick peek at is, does this site actually rank for some organic keywords? Next, we like to make sure we have some control over the anchor text. Now, the anchor text are just the words that are inserted into the link that's pointed back to your website. So as a quick example, here's a blog for a landlord-tenant attorney that we work with, and that they have their brand name listed out right here in red. The anchor text is Ken Miller and Associates. Okay, so those words are what the anchor text really is. Anchor text used to be that you could go out and just exact match all the things, right? You would get the keyword that you're trying to rank for, and you would plaster that inside the article, link it back to your site, and it would help you rank. It does not do that anymore. In fact, we've started to see more and more of the opposite with the recent spam update that Google had last year. It's starting to crack down on this a little bit more. They kind of backed off of it, but it looks like it's starting to come more to the forefront, and Google's starting to push back a little bit on these bad links. So we recommend that for every 10 links you build, 9 of them be your brand name. Okay, you can have one maybe. That's an exact match. You do not want to do much more than that. You want to have most of the links built, if not all of them, be your brand name. It builds brand mentions. Google likes a strong brand that's mentioned a lot online. It's only going to help you rank better because of that. Okay, next piece after anchor text, we want to look at the content relevance. Okay, so this is where it comes in a little bit handy if you can control the content and do some sponsored posts. This is a sponsored post that you're looking at right now, where we wrote the content, we sent it off to a blogger that we had built a relationship to be able to get listed on their website. And it was all about property management, damages, things of that nature that were related back to the particular practice area that they were trying to get more business for. That topical relevance is going to help out a ton. So not only do you want the content to be relevant, but at bare minimum, you want the general website to be related to your industry. So if you can get a blog that's about law or legal in some way, shape, or form, that's only going to help. Now, you don't always have to focus on only getting a legal blog to link to you. You can use some general blogs that have a legal section or things of that nature. So don't get totally hung up on this and say, nope, it's not a legal blog. I'm not going to get the link. There's still value in getting links that aren't necessarily all legal related. For the most part, though, we want to be focusing our efforts on getting those legal blogs where we can. Okay, next piece, domain quality and relevance. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways that people talk about this. To keep it simple, we like to just look at the domain rating that Ahrefs gives us. Okay, and we've set a threshold where we say, hey, as long as it's a 20 DR or better, it's a link that's going to help us out. If it's less than that, it gets a little dicey. And we start to question again, has it been around long enough for Google to trust it? Does it have some spam that's pulling its rating down there? So that tends to be a decent metric to at least get started with, to say, okay, for our domain quality, as long as that's 20 or better, we're going to be happy with that. And then again, the relevance, just take a quick peek at the site and make sure that it's topically relevant to your particular industry. Next thing, and then we've got one more after this. So we're going to take a look at the IP address. Okay, we want to try to avoid foreign IP addresses because that can be a red flag for Google if all of the links that we are getting are from outside of the country, because those are generally paid links, right? So Google's, again, they've been around for a while. They have a really good understanding of when people are trying to skirt the rules a little bit and just impact their rankings. I like to use this tool. It's just an IP lookup tool. There's tons of these that exist online. This is just one of them. I like it because I can just plug in the domain directly. It'll spit out the IP address, and then it'll give me all this information about the IP. So it's located in the United States, in New Jersey, in Secaucus. Perfect. Okay. So we've got a link that's local to the country that we're actually in. Bare minimum, that's what we want to try to shoot for. It's harder to try to get links that are hyper local, meaning within your own city within the United States. But this is a tool you could use to try to do that if you're looking at link placement in a particular state or city that you're wanting to get more links from. All right, so that's the bulk of the analysis piece here that we're looking at. So again, just to recap: keyword count, anchor text, content relevancy, domain quality, IP address, and the location of that IP address and where the link is coming from. Those are all the things you really want to consider as you're really getting these links built out. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's talk a little bit more about some tactics that we can use outside of outreach to be able to get more backlinks built to our website, right? So again, kind of that holy grail of link building is getting those brand mentions through reputable sites and, guest blog mentions and different things of that nature. But we don't always have to use those. Okay, we can do things, at least again, initially, this is a good way to really boost the number of links that you're getting. That's all legitimate as long as it's done in the right way. So one example of that is directories. Okay, so like Google Business Profile, Yelp, Yellow Pages, Super Lawyers, Avvo, all those things. Those are good to help you get some quick links. Keep in mind, though, there is a limit to this. If you start going off the rails and getting link directories or SEO directories that are just straight for link building and no other purpose, those will get you in trouble. Okay, Google understands when there's a site that is just all about getting a link. So we want to make sure that we keep this strategy legitimate and that we get directories that are actually going to be valuable and help either drive traffic or new clients to us. So we just want to be mindful of the directories that we're getting built out to our site and that we're not just getting any spammy site that we possibly can. Next piece is similar to directories. It's slightly different, where we can have profiles, right? So profiles are generally about an individual. So you can think of on like Justia or things of that nature, where it actually has a list of the attorneys at a particular law firm. But those individual profiles can also help increase the number of links that we're getting. And some sites are just solely dedicated to that. So you don't want to ignore getting profiles for your specific individual. that you're trying to get more links for. So this one's slightly controversial, but again, when done properly, it's okay to do things this way. So blog comments can be a great way to get links built. Now, keep in mind, I am not talking about going to a blog, putting your link into the comment section, hitting submit, and then saying, woo, I just built a link. No, that is absolutely a black hat strategy. We do not want to do that. We need to stay away from that type of link building. However, blog comments are a great way to build a relationship with a blogger. Okay, show interest in the blog, read it, and then respond in the comments and say, oh, I like blah, blah, blah about your blog. Love to chat more about this when you have a minute or whatever. And try to start a conversation through the blog comments. It's a great way to get a link back from somebody legitimately. Okay, so it's borderline outreach that we're talking about here because we're not saying just place a link on there, but it is a decent way to be able to get some more backlinks to your site. Okay, another great way to get some local, hyper-local links is through sponsorships. So think of like sponsoring a local 5K or a local charity in your area, or whatever the case is, right? Where you can give them a donation. Always ask with that donation to have them link back to the website. 99 times out of 100, that organization is going to be very willing and grateful that you're giving them a donation at all, that they'll link gladly back to your website for you as a donor. Those, again, are hyper-local links, which are very valuable when it comes to trying to improve our local SEO. So that's a great way to get those types of links. Okay, let's move on from some of these tactics a little bit. And let's talk about some technical considerations with these backlinks. Now, you can get lost in this part of backlinking and dive into all sorts of technical things. I'm going to try to keep it fairly basic and top level here, and just some of the things that we like to look at when we're getting a link built to make sure that it has these different attributes. So what we're going to look at are what we call real attributes. So again, it's just labels that go on the link. You can't physically see them. They're inside the code of the link themselves. So usually you need to inspect the element on the website to be able to understand what's actually going on with the link. But a couple of these attributes you need to be mindful of. Sponsored attributes, again, they're not the end of the world, but if you're constantly getting sponsored attribute links, Google's going to know that all you're doing is paying to play. And that is going to impact how you're going to rank with those links and potentially get you in trouble if that's the only type of link building that you're doing. Use them sparingly, so check any link placements before you get them to make sure that they don't have that sponsored attribute on them. Again, if they do, it's okay, just don't go crazy with those. UGC attributes. We need to be very careful with those as well. That's something that Google created back in 2019 that are user-generated content attributes that are added to links. So that helps Google identify if the site owner created this link or if someone else put the link up instead and placed it on the website. Again, if you've got tons of those in your link profile, it's going to cause a problem. Use them sparingly. Check those attributes. Again, it's not the end of the world, but just be careful with how many of those you end up getting built to your website. Okay, so let's talk about target attributes real quick on these links as well. Preferably, if you use a link, you want it to have a target blank, okay, which just helps users stay on your website. Now, if other individuals are using this, it's totally fine. It's not the end of the world, but you absolutely want to make sure any links that you're using, if you're pointing them off from your site to somewhere else, that it has that target blank attribute, because that is going to create a new tab in their browser and keep the current page that they're on open. Okay, so it's going to reduce the bounce rate or the time on site problems that you could have if you're just constantly sending people off of your website. So personally, I would just say look at your own site for that type of an attribute, but just double check to see if the link placements that you're trying to get also have that, just to be aware of it. Okay, last thing with these link attributes and technical considerations is crawlability. Okay, if you get a link and it is a no index link, it drives zero value. Okay, I shouldn't say zero value. It drives far less value than it would if it was an indexed link that Google can see. So be careful with those types of links. You absolutely do not want to constantly be getting no index links. It's going to slow down your SEO progress tremendously. So make sure when you get a link built out, it doesn't have that no index tag on there. All right, last thing we'll talk about with link building. We're going to talk about link targets. Okay, so we really have talked about, the different ways you can get links, different types of links you want to be looking at. But now I want to talk a little bit more about the strategy of where should we be prioritizing our link building. Okay, so general rule of thumb, right? Get as many links as you can to your homepage, excuse me. Your homepage is going to have the most internal links on it. That's going to be pointing out to other pages. So it's going to pass a lot of authority just by getting links built to your homepage. However, the biggest mistake I see people make is they only build links to their homepages. We want to also be having some targeted link building to what we call deep links on our website. These are the pages that maybe you have to go through 2 or 3 clicks to be able to get to these individual pages. So it could be a practice area page, something like, hey, I'm on my homepage. I go to the personal injury page. Now I'm going to go to the car accident page and then the T-bone accident page. I want to get more of those types of cases. So I'm going to build more links to this page to help it rank better. Doing that type of targeted link building is also tremendously helpful. Okay, it's going to be more targeted as far as the types of keywords you're going to be ranking for better. So it's a good idea to not just focus on that homepage and start looking on other pages on your website and say, maybe if I build a few links here, it'll help me move up a couple of positions, which could be the world of difference in getting more traffic to the website. Okay, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it helpful in your link building efforts and different things that you're going to want to consider. Like I said, we're going to have more videos to follow to dive into a lot of these things more granularly and help you understand better how you can do these things for yourselves. As always, if you have questions as well, feel free to reach out to us. We're open books and we'll definitely coach you through different things that you can do for yourself. And we're always happy to discuss as well what we can do to be able to help you out so that you don't have to necessarily take this on. If you have any questions, there's the contact button up above or down in the description. You can also see some contact information for us. Thanks.